So Paul and I are together today, and Paul's had an experience in sobriety alongside sobriety from alcohol, also sobriety from food. And abstinence of overeating is another symptom, another condition that many people struggle with. And once identified and once treated in a way that's honest, meaning that we admit we have a problem, at least, there's a certain freedom that is the same freedom that comes from any other symptom, because the root of the issue is mental. The root of all symptomatic compulsive behaviors, and I would say reactive and impulsive behaviors, is mental. So, Paul, go ahead at what you were just saying. I know that you're on somewhat of a limited time period this morning, but I wanted to catch you while you were in the midst of that, and also talk about your grandmother.
Yeah, good morning. Thanks for your time. I really appreciate your time, and I really like to be a student of this mental disease. I had a alcohol problem and drug problem. Once I put down that, I noticed that how much I was acting out in food is just and I would point it out that not enough. It's just not enough. I want more, and it's like that's just once I'm in the grip of the illness that I get in this jail when I'm like I want more. Not enough. I want more. Not enough, and I just kept doing. And it's like the backside of the coin is like it's like I catch up myself and I'm gaining like 30-40 pounds in a quick period of time, and then after that, like all these feelings and emotions comes in. But anyway, yes, I actually abstaining from sugar and. My grandmother passed away yesterday, actually, she has cancer, and she is a close person growing up. I had a lot of beautiful memories with her, and I found myself getting home yesterday night to thinking that I entitled today to have a huge bowl of oatmeal before I go to sleep. That it's gonna give me comfort, and it's gonna make me feel good about myself. So I actually identified that I feel discomfort first before I was able to. Before I even thinking like that, what would comfort me, it's so beautiful that what I learned in this programs and this recovery and this master program and from you as well, that I don't have to, I'm not my feelings and not my emotions as well, and how to feel these and not acting out actually, and just be okay to sit quiet when I get home at like 10:30 after work, and I also actually was able to be there for my mom, because my mom is also who's struggling with loss, and she doesn't have a 12-step program like I do, and she's a compulsive overeater like I do, and she doesn't have the tools what I have. That I don't have to act out on these uncomfortable feelings and emotions, that sorrow and death and losing a really close one, that I just got to sit with the sad feelings and emotions and just feeling them and expressing them to you and to others, and asking others how to actually how to feel these feelings.
Well, and the answer is just to feel them.
Yeah.
Which is why they're there.
But, I grow up not wanting to feel them and not knowing to feel them and not learning how to actually feel them. And And that's not how it is today. And that's what I'm learning today, even.
Well,
And
and
I'm obsessed with
it
it.
it's never been that way based on what you did. It's always been that way based on what you do now.
Yes.
So that
So it's,
coming to terms with that is beginning to be honest about what's happening. And it becomes a lot easier to deal with it when you're honest about what's happening than when you're thinking of it as something that you can't do anything about because it started so long ago that there's no way to stop it.
yeah. I mean, like the learning honesty part, to actually be honest how I really feel and be okay with it. And actually, like, which came up a lot this week, that how to be vulnerable about my feelings and emotions, and when I was wrong, admitted it. Um,
Yeah, you're just
because
talking about
see,
honesty.
yeah,
You're not even talking about vulnerability. The vulnerability is the weakness of making believe it shouldn't be happening while it's happening and while you're feeling what you're feeling. And all compulsions are is a chance to desensitize ourselves to what we're feeling in the name of feeling good about the thing that we're doing. That short-term gratification, that idea that that thing we're going to do is going to offer us relief and release and freedom is exactly what condemns us because it's a lie. Compulsions are always covers for obsessive thoughts. And your feelings are based on obsessive thinking when you're fighting them. The reason you're fighting them is because you think they're real and they have some basis. They don't. They're just imaginary reality. They're not actual reality. Their fantasy is reality.
yeah, um,
So it's not the
yeah,
feeling, it's the fighting of the feeling, and the thinking of it is something that shouldn't be happening. Well, guess what? Surprise, it's happening. And
yeah. And
it's,
what to do about it?
well, start to notice that what's happening is always happening. It's always been happening. It isn't what we think of what's happening that's happening, it's what's happening that's happening. And to begin to
Yeah, but
see that is to begin to see the impact we think thinking has when we think it's real. And then we feel things and dismiss the value of those feelings. Feeling vulnerable is an awareness that what we're doing has no strength. The weakness of that thought is, I shouldn't be doing it, it shouldn't be happening, I shouldn't be feeling this, rather than whether I should or shouldn't be is irrelevant to the fact I am feeling this. And if my experience has been, it's my thinking about what's happening that I'm feeling, especially when I'm feeling conflicted emotionally, I'm thinking conflicted mentally. And the two of them are not separate. They're very much intertwined.
I really like you saying conflict, and I would like to break that down a little bit. Going deeper a little bit, what does conflict means, and being conflicted with myself means. I think it's so beautiful that I got to learn this. Like, because if I'm not in conflict with myself and with my thinking, then that for me it's like I'm in God frequency, and I'm in the present moment, and I got to be in the present moment. And then when I'm in conflict, that's when I actually want to, like, it's a sense of discomfort. I feel not good, and I want to feel good. So what can I do about it? And I remember, like, there is no other ways other than have a drink, and there is no other way that I'm going to order, I'm going to use, or I'm going to use food, and and
Yeah.
and then there is, so, and
It's every obsessive thought has an attachment to a compulsion. And some of those compulsions we've been doing so long we think they're normal. And everyone else seems to be doing them too because we think of them as normal, we think of it as normal for everyone. So when we see someone else doing it, we think that's proof we can do it too. But a compulsion is actually attempting to deny the experience we're having in the name of creating a new experience that feels good, when all we're doing is avoiding the fact that what we're thinking is bad, which is why we're feeling bad, and our thinking is uncomfortable because we know it doesn't fit.
I think, yeah, I think what you just mentioned is exactly says it in the big book, like, or something like, maybe rephrasing it or not sure, but like, when that's the reality, when it's like, this is what life is, and like, I don't know, maybe it's like, talking about like an illusion, or I don't know, I maybe like tomorrow, or like we're gonna bring it up, but it's
Well,
beautifully
but
said that.
slow that down a little bit. Think about that. Tomorrow we'll figure it out, meaning today we won't. Today being the
No,
meaning to today being the only day where it's actually happening. We're not going to do it now. We're going to do it then. That's why my sense is karma has been developed as something that happens and fix it. We get it fixed in the next. We're fixing what we did in the last life because there's nothing we can do about it. But now, when in fact it's also saying there's nothing we can do about what we're doing now because we'll fix it in the next life. Rather than karma is immediate, and what karma is consequence. And consequence, when it's considered coincidence, think about the word coincidence. It's coinciding simultaneously. Cause and effect is happening simultaneously. It isn't cause and eventually effect. It's cause and eventually we admit the effect because we can't take it any longer. We've suffered too much pain. And so we finally concede maybe something's wrong rather than see that we know immediately something's wrong because we're uncomfortable. And we're starting to do something that we've done 1,000 times that's never worked. And we think this will be the time. Tomorrow I'll get it right. Today I'm done. Today I'm completely hell. I've already made the decision to drink. I've already made the decision to smoke a joint. I've already made the decision to eat sugar. It's already in my system. There's nothing I can do about it. But tomorrow I'll do it. And tomorrow never comes because tomorrow will be today when we're there. Just like yesterday is today now. The present is, you're always in the present as you described, that sense of God. You're always there, making believe that being preoccupied and you're thinking about something that's conflicted because it's so consumed. You can't maintain a lie with anything other than complete undivided attention. And yet the attention that you're giving it is actually divided between you and what you call yourself, which is just another idea about you. It's just another thinking about you. So when you think yourself is in conflict, the conflict is the self you think you're in, because it isn't a self at all. It's just thinking about itself that you're struggling with.
yeah, and I love the attention part, like, and how to be attained about what is
How to
going on,
how to be what?
and how to be attained, or like how to like um actually separate who's talking, and like talking about this multiple self, like, or like, self, or actually
Let me give you a
like,
clue. You want a clue?
yeah, I would love to.
It's always you making the choice. Always. It's never going to be anybody else. It's never going to be something else. It's not going to be somewhere else. It's always going to be you in the present, where you always are, making a choice to entertain ideas as reality rather than simply ideas. It isn't the idea that's the problem. It's thinking they're true that's the problem, and then thinking there's nothing we can do about it, because how are we possibly going to overcome reality? When in fact it's a self-induced, self-imposed experience of reality, not actually, it's what we're thinking about reality, not actually reality. Reality isn't something we can avoid. It isn't something we can escape. It isn't something that begins and ends with our thinking. It's the essence of existence, meaning everything, everywhere, and everyone everywhere. Plants, animals, minerals, all of it. Everything, space, subatomic structure, everything we think doesn't even exist would be part of that.
Yes. And
Now I can hear you much better now, Paul. It was, I think, that
yes. I was sorry, I was in the car.
you know,
So yeah, I um I would like to come back to that. What is this gut frequency means, and how to. I mean, this is for me. This is all coming along, and how to have that. I mean, it was so beautiful that how to have conscious contact. I got home yesterday night after like hearing my grandma passed, and I was just laying down in my bed, and it was really hard to like just give myself permission to just lay down. And I was like thinking, what can I do? But I was just so tired. So it was so interesting that usually I journal before sleep, or I read some spiritual literatures, and I actually did not want him to do any of that, because I just, yeah. And same with get up in the morning. I have I have usually like I get up and I journal, I pray, I meditate, and I actually needed to kick myself in the ass to do it, and
Well,
I didn't sleep pretty well. But actually, just because my grandma passed, and keep it says, sought to prayer and meditation to improve my conscious contact with God. That like what I
so
have today.
Paul, think about that sentence. To improve our conscious contact. It doesn't say to get a contact. It says to improve our conscious contact. Why? Because the pure consciousness of that power is inescapable. You're talking about frequency, right?
Yes.
You're talking about feeling that vibration, but think of the word frequency. It's like still and still. Stillness means still, nothing moving, but it also means still, remaining, always. Frequency, think of that. Frequency means all the time. Frequency
So
doesn't
he's
mean occasionally, it means frequent.
so he's saying, like, I can think myself out from that conscious contact when it's like,
No,
um,
no. You can delusionally make believe that you're thinking yourself out of it.
yeah,
That's the
that's
whole
like,
problem, is that humans have consistently thought that what they think of things are what those things become. So what I think of you is who you are, and what I think of myself is who I am. It isn't. What I think of myself is what I think. And if I'm
you
thinking
know,
of myself as thinking of thinking itself, I have now become my thinking, and I am the creator of reality, and I think the only right is what I think. So I end up being wrong most of the time, and I would say most of my thoughts are wrong. And to think of them as right would be to miss the absolute nature of rightness, that is absolutely moral and absolutely virtuous and absolutely loving and kind. We call humankind kind, and it isn't always. And we call civilization civil, and it isn't always. And what you're describing is you're not separating yourself from God. You are absolutely, this is the insanity of it. You're absolutely connected and can't be disconnected, imagining that your thoughts are so powerful. This is the whole first step in Alcoholics Anonymous. We admitted we were powerless over alcohol. We're admitting we're powerless over the thought we can drink without any of the consequences that we've faced 1,000 times and made believe we weren't facing so we could justify doing it again. And it's a thinking, we think that thinking more about it's going to fix it, that tomorrow the thinking's going to correct it. We are admitting the impossibility of that thinking today, now, always. And you said to me the other day, I'm really aware of these things now. I don't know how to stop them. As though the impulse is I should never feel bad. If I'm burning in a house and I'm trying to figure out how not to feel fire, I'm going to die. My survival instincts are going to be backward, just like they are in obsessive thinking, where I think fighting is the solution, and I think flying away is the solution, into a compulsion, escaping. And I think freezing, being numb, acting as though I'm completely unconcerned and detached and desensitized is the answer.
I think you touched something like, you're giving so many so many beautiful information this short period of time. Like, I would like to go back to conflict and what is being conflicted.
Well, if you're having a thought that you think is reality, could there be a greater conflict than that with reality? If your whole idea about reality is only what you think, it means that the rest of reality that's actually real, the real reality, the reality that is real, is now masquerading as you in your terms, yourself. That's just an imagined idea we have. Thoughts are imagined. They're not reality. They're a product of reality, meaning they can't be reality. They can express reality, but intuition doesn't take a lot of thinking. Intuition knows what to do clearly because the brain is actually functioning on its ultimate level rather than this depreciated, disintegrated degradation of making believe that we can be in conflict and put all the pieces together all the time and somehow they're going to fit when it's a bunch of different jigsaw puzzles in the same box. Not going to happen.
Mm.
So the
Yeah.
conflict, that's the conflict.
So how to be not in conflict?
Well, you're not in conflict. You just think you are.
I think I am, yes.
Just start to notice what you're thinking, what you're capable of doing with your thinking, because this loving source that is all of all powerful, all knowing, all present, all the omniscient, omnipotent, etc., doesn't keep anything from us. We fail to utilize everything we've been given. And to excuse that, we make believe God doesn't give it to us and we need to do more to get there. We need to earn it. We need to buy some more of God's attention. We need to have God listen to us better. We need to, all these, we're literally blaming God or the concept of God for not doing for us what we are absolutely, first of all, doing and claim to have nothing to do with. Now think of that conflict. I'm causing it and acting as though the effect is happening to me. Why? Because I'm trying to be irresponsible for what I'm doing. I'm trying to make believe that I'm a victim. There are no victims in reality whatsoever. There are no lies in reality whatsoever. None. Zero. Ever. Those are all things that are masquerading in the brains of humans and maybe other species, but let's stick with the one we are part of for the time being. It's insanity. It's a mental illness, just like you find with all of the symptomatic behaviors become clearly wrong when you start seeing them correctly, and you start seeing how sick it is to have those impulses and then act on them as though they're the only thing you can do. And I don't talk about this because I don't do those things. I talk about it because I want to get better at talking about those things in all respects, not just food, not just drugs and alcohol, not just relationships, not just sex, not just all of the little item of gambling. We're all gambling. We're literally gambling with our present capacity to make believe that some insane idea is going to win out and provide the promise of it. The promise of insanity is a broken promise. We're not getting what we think we're going to get. And when we get it, we feel empty. Why? Because the whole idea was all fantasy to begin with. We end up arriving at that place we thought we'd get, work years, decades to get there. And all of a sudden, somebody shoots themselves in the head because they find out the same emptiness is right there. The whole time they were fantasizing it would be the answer. And when they finally get the answer, they realize it's not the answer at all. That's the nature of insanity. Now, insanity isn't natural, or it wouldn't be conflicted. We'd be happy to be insane. We're not. People are not struggling with happiness and trying to figure out how to put it out. They're struggling with anxiety and stress and depression for good reason, because they know better. They wouldn't struggle if they didn't know better. You wouldn't struggle if you didn't know better. And to start to see the struggle as evidence of a curriculum educating us as to the failures in our thinking is to begin to be honest about what we're doing and talk about it openly rather than think of it as something that needs to be hidden because it's another way of keeping the secret and pretending we're irresponsible for what's happening because we're ashamed and guilty. And guilt and shame are actual consequences of being guilty for the shame we're creating, the immoral, non-virtuous activities that we're pursuing in the name of insanity.
Yeah, those feelings. Um, you mentioned something. It was like, um, idea, happiness. What does that mean? And what to
Doesn't
do
mean
about it?
unhappy.
And
Does not mean unhappy.
yeah, how would you describe happiness today? What does that mean for you?
Well, I mean, we can define it, and I'll let you look that up and work on that a little bit. But I would say what we're talking about is freedom from the conflict, the awareness that the conflict, when I think thoughts are real, I think I'm in thoughts. And then I think I'm stuck in my head. And I think the thoughts are intruding on me. Think of that. They have to be an enemy that's separate from me to be intruding on me. So I've created an environment where I think I'm in them. It's like being in a dream. If you're in a dream and it's a nightmare, you're relieved when you wake up. Much happier to wake up and say, "Oh, that was only a dream." Wow. I was, you were in your own experience facing what seemed real, but it was a dream. We're doing that during the day. We're doing that with our eyes open when we say we're not sleeping. And we're still creating and inducing and imposing that experience on our sleepwalking during the day, on the steps we take, and the places we go, and the people we interact with. To any degree, we're treating fantasy as reality. And to begin to
So,
see that thinking isn't right, it's just a thought. It's an analysis of what's happening. Thinking is about trying to protect us from risks so that we can make decisions that give us a better chance of surviving. That's what thinking is about. It's part of the body's function, and it's instinctive to want to avoid risks and increase potential successes. Because that's what survival's about. That's what organisms strive for. It doesn't mean we're going to live forever, not going to die. It means that in the process of this living, we can begin to emulate the absolute nature of existence if we're interested in actually living. And my suspicion is we're not afraid of death, we're afraid of actually living. But we preoccupy ourselves with death just like we preoccupy ourselves with addictions, making believe that we can't be free of it, and as a result, we're condemned by it. We're not. To not die is to never be born. Why would we value so much being born and think the thing that it ultimately leads to for everyone and everything is so abhorrent and so horrible? We're not thinking about it accurately. And I'm not
yeah,
suggesting on a human level that it doesn't have pain and it doesn't involve a sense of loss. We're missing that body, that smell, the touch, the sound, the appearance. We're missing that thing. And yet, during the day, with people that are still here, we discount and avoid and desensitize ourselves and call them toxic and push them away and break off relationships with the same value that we're claiming now all of a sudden we see in the person who's gone.
yeah. I always get stuck if you say something like, wow, and then you say a lot of wow. But you said it like, happiness is, um, means supposed to be, or your means, wasn't sure if I get it right, but um, like how to live without conflict with these thoughts, or with self, or with this obsession, I talk about the mental part. So how to be not conflicted mentally, you saying.
My sense is, Paul, we would not be striving for happiness if we weren't so terminally unhappy. And what we're unhappy about is what we're doing and we know is wrong and acting as though it's right. In essence, if a being is operating on a being's basis, fulfillment would not include happiness. It would just be a certain contentedness and a peacefulness and an awareness, like a meditative state is supposed to be generated. by sitting quietly and observing our thoughts, all of a sudden we realize, oh, there's something else going on here that's profoundly calm and profoundly different than the inner conflicts I face when I step out from this environment of being quiet and closing my eyes and simply allowing my thoughts to be thoughts. So the freedom from it's kind of like pain. Pain would not be an issue if we were never in pain. We wouldn't be fearing it. It just wouldn't be happening because we'd be neutral to it. There would be we wouldn't be causing it. And so pain would be a perfect, if I put my hand on the stove, I told my granddaughter once, don't put your hands up on the stove. She immediately put her hands on the stove and burned her hand. She has not done that since then, ever. She wouldn't listen to me. She wouldn't take direction. She needed to create that experience to begin to value it and begin to see, oh, now I see what you were saying.
Yeah, I have the same experience with you, and with my experiences to get there when I'm actually able to talk to you about, like just going back again what you said so beautifully, and like the example you just brought it up, how to be neutral and with the thoughts.
Well,
What is
you're
that?
already there. You're just, if you're thinking obsessively, you're thinking about lies as truth and as reality. And so if that's the bag of tricks you're reaching into for your next thought, you're going to get another conflicted thought. And so it's going to go on and on and on, just like the eating goes on and the smoking goes on and the drinking goes on and the drugging goes on. Because it's the primary addiction is mental. It's not symptomatic. It's the disease, the actual disease, which is defined as mental in the big book. And I would agree that's where it's sourced. Mental obsession in alcoholism, people think often that the obsession in alcoholism is removed when the obsession to drink is removed. But what's left is all the other obsessive thoughts we have that don't have anything to do with drinking that are also sick because they were the pool of thoughts that led to the fact that drinking would give us relief from all of them by simply drinking or by eating or by doing the one thing that seems to give us the most gratification. We thought it would eliminate them all rather than see, no, that was one symptom that I am now free from. And being free from it, I am happier, literally, to look at the consequences of that thinking in all respects with relation to my life. The fourth step talks about it, a moral inventory. It's talking about it because we're coming from an immoral position. What would immoral be? Unnatural, unhealthy, diseased rather than comforted. Discontent rather than actual content of reality being fulfilling. We're trying to fill a vacancy of reality with ideas about it that will never be enough to satisfy the fulfillment of reality because it's never been unfilled. It's always real. It's always here. It's always now. It's always everywhere with everything simultaneously. And it isn't something that's in space and time at all anyhow. So it's very hard to comprehend, but there's no need to comprehend something that we absolutely know because existence is based on it. It's just our existence. It's what life actually is, not what we make out of life and what we think of life and what we accuse life of being or thinking of in some depreciated, illogical, irrational, unreasonable, unusable fashion.
Yeah. Just going back there a little bit again. What is knowing means? What do I know? And
So
you can
those are
just
two words I'm going to let you look up and work on: happiness and
mm,
knowing. So certainly knowing is not knowing. So knowing isn't the unknown, it's knowing. And I would suggest to you, consider this too, Paul, when you talk about getting points, like you go, wow. You're not struggling with what you know because those wows and all that are confirming that you know it. Because if you weren't aware of it, you wouldn't respond that way. It's something in you that you already have that you're being aligned with in the conversation. It's the understanding, you're thinking. You think you need to understand it because you've been using understanding to try to understand misunderstanding for decades. So too is humanity. We've got it all backward. We've called understanding, which is really misunderstanding, understanding. It's another conflict. So if you notice those moments of wow, and I hear this a lot from people, they'll say, more common than wow. Wow is common. Holy shit is common. And I say that's the sort of release of the divinity of making believe that ego is in fact God. When we say
Yeah.
holy shit, it's like the divine idea that shit is somehow or another divine. The other thing is people say, I hear something right, but I don't understand it. And they're really dividing. They're really mentioning very clearly that they know, and that what they're struggling with is what they think they know. And to start to notice that is to start to merge this idea of humans being an analytically processed experience, temporal, changing all the time. It includes our brain. Our body includes our brain. When we talk about a physical allergy and alcoholism and drug addiction and all that, we're talking about a body with a brain. The brain is part of that body. The brain is to serve the body's interest, to protect the body. Its instincts are there to protect it. If we're thinking about human being properly, we're starting to see that the being nature isn't human. It's an absolute state of consciousness, pure awareness, pure knowingness. And there's no thinking in it at all, none, which is why you say, wow, or as people say, right. I know it's right, I don't understand it. They're admitting the clarity they have about what they know and also the frustration they're having with what they think. And to start to notice that is very profound because it's kind of like finally admitting that you never read the manual for your car and can't seem to figure out all the things that would be very helpful, and especially when you need them doing 60 miles an hour down the freeway. You're trying to figure out how to turn something on or off, and you're being distracted from doing the thing the car is providing as a benefit, putting the car and your life at risk doing it. Simply didn't read the owner's manual. Our owner's manual is the body language that we get. And our functional literacy is based on how well we read that language accurately, rather than thinking of it as something that shouldn't be happening, starting to say, oh, how could it should not be happening while it's happening? That would be a position I'm taking against what's happening. That's a fight. That's a conflict. I'm choosing that rather than saying, feeling bad is actually feeling something I'm thinking that's bad. And that's a very clear awareness, and it perfectly aligns. There is no conflict in that at all. And to sit with it will begin to start to understand it, because as you sit with it and have it, you'll start to see the dysfunctional tendencies you have exhibited as having no basis. Just like you do when you're free from the eating, you start seeing how those impulses to eat oatmeal before bed,
Oh yeah.
which is all
Oh yeah.
carbs, all sugar. Those
More
impulses all
food.
of a sudden they're seen as something that really doesn't work. They're seen as something that isn't healthy. They're seen as something that's really unnatural, that isn't really survival oriented. They're seen clearly because you're thinking clearly about what you're thinking rather than thinking unclearly about what you're thinking and wondering why everything else seems to be so complicated. It isn't. It is not.
Yeah. You talk about like so beautiful, like the mental obsession. It used to drive me there all the time. And it's like when I actually think myself the way out there, when I was like, there's no other way other than go for it.
Other
And
than what?
once other than go for it, just have it.
Well, that's
And then,
it isn't that there isn't another way. It's simply the way. We already have
yeah,
it. If you begin to
exactly. And
concede what's happening is what's happening, it's a lot different than thinking what's happening shouldn't be happening, and that you need to feel better about what's worse, which is really the conflict of addiction, trying to feel better by doing something that feels better because you're ignoring and avoiding the thing that's worse. And so what happens? That thing gets worse.
yeah,
We keep
I mean, once,
tolerating it. We keep tolerating it, and yet we run our tolerance, say drinking, at a certain point, our body gives up. We overdose because we can't tolerate constantly denying truth. constantly denying it. It's intolerable to our system because it's insanity. And our body was not designed to produce insanity, but it's perfectly capable because of the absolute freedom we have to induce it in our own experience and think of it as the only thing we can do, and thus reality, and thus right, and thus cause havoc in the world, blaming other people for being wrong and think we have to kill them to straighten them out. It's been going on throughout all of human history, at least written human history. There may be windows that haven't been written about that are much more elevated that would dispel these rumors, and that would suggest that we're only interested in maintaining the sickness by only perpetuating the mythology of the things we're doing that we think we can do nothing about, rather than start to concede that there may be a wisdom much greater within range of human history that is just a part that we turn our back on and ignore and deny. And there's a lot of people now talking about things that have happened historically that run very, very much contrary to the academic thesis that's been perpetuated about human history and how long we've been here and who and what have been doing whatever they've been doing. I don't know that it's right or wrong. I don't care. I'm not interested in trying to determine what's right in history. What I know is what happened happened, because I know right now what's happening is happening. And I know what will happen is going to happen as it happens. And to know that as a fundamental basis of thinking, that becomes my expectation, that what happens is what's happening, not what should be happening, what shouldn't be happening, what I wish was happening, what I think I need to have happen. All that other stuff is all hocus pocus in my own contention to win the fight.
Yeah. How to know which is right or which is wrong, and which one is, or this is like right or wrong.
You know it. You know it.
That's the knowing comes in, exactly.
You know it though. The disturbance is what's wrong when you think it's right. If you're feeling disturbed, consider that what you're thinking is disturbing, period. You don't even have to know what it is to know that, and to have a relationship to it that's peaceful because you're not creating conflict is to begin to allow your awareness to admit the things that you would otherwise deny and make believe would dispel the rumors and you're afraid of. You don't want to hear that stuff. You're afraid of it. That's that seeming self-induced fear. It comes from knowing we're afraid of being found out. We're afraid of being exposed. We're afraid of the imposter self being all of a sudden seen as who we are. So we work hard to make it look like everything's fine. Ask people how they're doing. Fine, 99% of the time. And you know what? 99% of the time, they're not fine. There's something going on that isn't right.
Dishonesty.
Yeah, we create images. We act as how we'd like to appear and how we'd like to seem rather than as we are. That's dishonesty.
I just sent you a message 2 days ago or 3 days ago. Exactly, you're talking about I'm struggling with this one. And I just gonna stop you with this because we're running out of time. But I love what you just said. It's like, and it's not because I actually tend to be dishonest, but this is.
Oh no, you do.
I do.
You do.
Yes.
When you begin to admit this honestly, you're going to see that you wanted to do it all along because you really think there's a payoff. You really think you're going to win this battle someday. And what came, I know we're short on time, so I'm going to make a point to sum up something that you just said about that day you called 2 days ago. And what I said to you is, if you didn't know better, you wouldn't be aware of the problem. And you said, what do I do about it? And I said, well, certainly don't fight it, concede it. Begin to notice that you wouldn't be struggling if you didn't know there was something wrong. It's a very different approach to looking at what's struggling, is beginning to claim the reality of the situation, if we can call it that, which we certainly can, but if we think of it in that way, the actual facts of the situation are that we wouldn't be struggling if we didn't know something was conflicted. If we didn't know there was a fight, there would be no struggle. That's an awareness.
But who's struggling?
You are struggling with an idea about yourself. You are struggling with a self that is also just an idea. Yes, that's the insanity.
That's what I want.
That's good.
Correct.
That's good. Yeah.
Yeah, so and it's really awesome.
When you look at it that way, you see the value of the education we're getting. And now all of a sudden, the experiences we're having are a curriculum, like we're in college and we're constantly being given new material. Why would it be new if we already knew it? In terms of our human experience, it's new because we're looking at it newly every moment with new circumstances and new combinations of circumstances. And sometimes those circumstances seem foreign because, in fact, we've never faced them before in any moment. We're always facing it new. But the vitality and spontaneity that comes from that awareness and that facing of it is what we're trying to dumb down and stupefy by being numb and desensitizing our experience by claiming it shouldn't be happening. And we think that management program is going to someday work. And that's what the unmanageability is in the first step. The unmanageability is there's nothing to manage. Because if we could manage it, we'd be managing it. And there's nothing to manage in insanity. We're already managing to create the unmanageability by creating something that doesn't exist to be thought of as reality. How much further can we go? You can't go much further than that to make believe that all we are is what we think on that basis.
But like who I really am, like, and finding that out, like it's a beautiful journey. Because like what I just asked you, like who's struggling, that I actually just found out that like who is me, like who is struggling and what is struggling means, that and what to do about it. Like it's all this.
You think it's a struggle because you think you're the self you're struggling with, and you're not.
Not anymore.
So
correct.
rather than who am I, or what am I, or why am I, or how am I, or where am I, which are all questions we ask about the self, not the I. We're saying who am I, but the fact is that I am can't be argued with, except with ideas that are insane. That I am isn't a question, it's a simple statement of existence.
Oh, I know. I know what I got lost, like in the middle of this conversation, what you said, like the image of myself.
Yes.
The idea of myself and the image of our idea about you or about anyone around me, and how to be free of that. That's what I would love to talk to you about. Maybe the next session.
Don't be free of thinking. You'd be in a coma if you were free of thinking. It's thinking it's real that creates the idea that what we think about itself becomes ourself. That's what we're struggling with. We think that by thinking about our thinking, which is a contemplative advantage, huge advantage to be able to think about our thinking because we can actually clarify and adjust. What's his name? Darwin said it isn't the strongest species, it isn't the most intelligent, it's the one that's capable of adapting to change that survives. How much change are we adapting to if we think we shouldn't be where we are doing what we're doing at any moment? We're trying to refuse the growth, to deny the growth, to deny the experience, to deny the wisdom that's natural for us to express. That is unwise, it's unhealthy, it's unnatural, it's abnormal, all masquerading as being the only thing we can do. So we think of it as normal and usual and common. And common sense is uncommon today, and to even refer to that is ridiculous.
Yeah.
So you're learning and you're growing.
I gotta go.
Love you, brother. We'll continue this.
I am, and it's we just keep. I'm just gonna actually look up those words you mentioned, and let's make this happen again next week sometimes.
So when we do, I'm around tomorrow too, if you want to do that. I think you'd said that earlier. So look at the words, and then we'll talk about it. And notice that a dictionary is actually rooted in not defining something that's absolute, but simply defining a reference to things that are absolute. It's referring to stuff that we know to give us greater clarity of the distinctions that we are dealing with. That's all. It's not telling us the truth. It's simply referring to things that we know. As you see that, you'll start saying, oh, I do have a sense of what I know, because I certainly seem to have a great sense of what I don't think I know. How can we be so confident all the time of what we don't think we know without having a sense of knowledge? It wouldn't happen.
Yeah. All right. Thanks for your time.
Campus. You got it.
Bye.
Love you. Bye.